you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, welcome everybody. We are going to record this meeting. Thank you for making your time and put the energy today here that we are going to talk about conscious parenting and with the amazing Mihaela Plugarasu. Mihaela is a member of We Evolution and she's an expert in the field of parenting, conscious parenting. We are going to be discussing conscious parenting and how to face the new challenges that the pandemic brought to our families' lives. Mihaela is an educator with more than 15 years of leadership, self-development, and teaching experience. She is a mom, a co-parent, and a college professor in Miami, Florida. And Mihaela lectures in the United States, Europe, and Latin America. She became very intentional about conscious parenting ever since her son was born, and her life changed profoundly as a result of looking within. So we are super happy to have you here, Mihaela. I want to also mention that she's an author of this book, Conscious Parenting, that I highly, highly recommend. Not only her book, also her program of a Conscious Parent Accelerator. But I'm not going to accelerate myself, but I heard wonderful things about it. So I'm super encourage you to read this book as well. So thank you for coming, and Mihaela, we are listening to you.
Well, thank you, everyone. So good to be here today. I see some of familiar faces. Some of you are my friends already, and some new faces. So I'm very, very happy to meet the new moms here. I think we're all women. So I'm very happy to be here. I want to say thank you to Maria Gabriela for being so good to me ever since we met. I'm a part of We Evolution. I am promoting the organization to my students, to my girlfriends. So anyway, I'm really happy to be here, and thank you, Maria, for inviting me. We're going to make this very, very conversational, okay? So that's a good thing, because if I start talking, trust me, I'm going to hold you here till the end of time, because that's how much I love talking about this subject. But we're going to make it very conversational, and I'll just talk in the beginning for a few minutes just to give you my perspective on what I think conscious parenting is, and more importantly, why it's so urgent for us to do this work, okay? So I'll do that just for a few minutes, and then I'm going to invite all of you to either raise your hand, or you can do that, or you unmute yourself and you say, I want to ask a question, or you can type your question in the chat and I can see the question and then I answer the question, okay? So all together we have about an hour, and I want to answer all questions as they come, and do not be afraid to ask me the hard questions, okay? I want to reiterate what Maria said earlier, which is that she's recording the session, and this is going to be on YouTube, so it's going to be public content. So as you talk about your issues or your questions, if you want to think about holding on to some type of privacy, do that, okay? Because it's becoming public content. So with that said, Maria, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I want to say that thanks that we have today Gabriela Lemoyne from Córdoba, Argentina, and she's a professional translator. If someone wants to make a question in Spanish, feel free to do it, because we are lucky today that we have a Gabriela.
Yes, awesome. All right, so let me start with just raise your hand, okay? You don't have to unmute, but just raise your hand if you have heard if it's part of your psyche, your vocabulary, the words of conscious parenting? All right, everybody raise their hands. So Maria, session over, okay? Okay, awesome. So it's not new, which is great. A lot of people have not heard of conscious parenting before, but because we are in an inner space, we're all part of We Evolution. All of us have done some work that needs to be done on ourselves, right? So we already have some level of self-awareness and where we're coming from, where we're going, that allows us to embrace the concept of conscious parenting a little bit more graciously, because a lot of people have a hard time embracing what conscious parenting is all about. So what is conscious parenting? The way I see it, and the way I defined it in my book, I'm looking at my book right here. Conscious parenting is a relationship-based process, right? So relationship, everything is a keyword in this definition. Very important, each and every word. So it's a relationship-based process between the parent and the child that serves both the parent and the child in their optimal evolution, right? So let me just deconstruct this for a little bit. What I mean by that is that, first of all, it's a relationship based. In other words, the parent's responsibility, and it falls on the parent as a responsibility, is to nurture the relationship. And the relationship needs to be based in connection. I'll talk about connection as we continue the conversation. So it's a relationship, which means it's a two-way conversation. It's a two-way highway. It's not an authority and a submission type of relationship, because that can create trust, okay? So as much as the child learns from us, we learn from the child. And as in all spiritual teachings that I'm sure you've read, starting from thousands and thousands of years ago, we know that our children are our teachers if we are willing to see the teaching in what the child is teaching us, okay? So the relationship requires an open mind and an open space in which both the child and the parent feel safe with each other. Now, the child is not responsible for the safety in the relationship, and we cannot place that responsibility on the child ever. So in conscious parenting, a lot of responsibility falls on the parent. And then I said, the relationship serves for the evolution of both the child and the parent. What that means is that we as adults come into the relationship with our children the moment that they're born. In a way, they are predestined, they are predetermined that they will be conditioned and programmed by whatever emotional luggage we bring in the relationship. And parents who are in my program, they know that we spend a lot of time in the beginning of the program working on this emotional luggage that we, the adults, bring in the relationship. And 99.9999 of the time, we are not aware that we have that emotional luggage. If we are aware of some of it, many times we prefer to stay in denial or put it on the side, hoping that it's not going to be so bad, but it will become a problem in the future. So it's either lack of self-awareness, it's either denial, it's either, putting a shiny coat on it and we hope that everything will be okay. And the child, because the child is born with such an open brain, and the first 2 years of life, the job of the brain is to wire itself. So the environment the environment in which the child is becomes the predetermination of that particular child and that future teenager, that future adult. I see Claudia, making the nonverbal language that they absorb everything. Exactly, right? So they're like a sponge. We've heard that before, that the child is like a sponge. Excuse me. I'm getting over a cold. But we don't want to look at what that really means, When we say, oh, they're like a sponge, that's how they learn. That's how they learn to walk. That's how they learn our language. That's how they learn social rules and norms and etiquette. And oh my God, it's so good. Well, they're like a sponge because also they absorb every time you yell. I yell, all of us. Every time we have a fight with our partner in front of them, every time we tell them, no, you can't do that. Every time we say, bad boy, bad girl, every time we say, stop crying. Every time we say, good kids don't do that. Good kids speak nice to their mommies, right? So timeouts, punishment, slamming the door. Every time we are sad, they see we're sad and they ask you, are you okay, mommy? And we say, yeah, everything is fine. So we lie to them every single day. We lie for many reasons because we want to protect them. So yes, they are like a sponge and they absorb everything. And as a matter of fact, their brain in the first years of life absorb more of what's nonverbal because they are pre-verbal, right? Language doesn't really matter that much to them the first years of life. So they absorb our facial expression. They absorb our anger. They absorb our sadness. They absorb our silent aggression between us and our partners. They absorb when we are stressed, right? We live under constant toxic stress. So their brain wires itself 100% as a result of the environment. And when I say environment, I mean emotional environment above anything else. Okay, so that's the definition. And the work of conscious parenting is for the parent to become aware, right? Just like I know today is Friday, I have the responsibility to be as aware of all the luggage and the trauma and triggers and emotional pain that I bring in the relationship. So then I don't dump it on my child unconsciously and unintentionally. I never said in any of my teachings, lectures, and book, I am never saying that we do this consciously or intentionally. We never do it intentionally. Every time we do something, our adult brain will have a good, quote unquote, a good justification. Well, of course I needed to punish, otherwise they don't learn. Of course I needed to whatever, otherwise. Yes, we're very good at producing justifications that make us feel good, but that's not conscious parenting. So conscious parenting is 3 things, and I have them right here. Do you see the letters A, B, C? Okay, that's how my program is organized, right? This is how the modules flow. A stands for self-awareness. B stands for being present in the present, not yesterday, not 5 minutes ago, and not tomorrow. Being present, that's very hard for most modern parents. And then C stands for connection. So in order for these 3 things to be in a perfect flow all the time, we need to have done tremendous healing. So my program focuses a lot on healing. When I say healing, I am not only talking about working with our spirit guides and our energy and doing Reiki and meditation. That's very important, and this complements the work. But I'm talking about identifying our trauma, knowing how our own childhoods affected us. How was my brain wired by my parents, by my environment, to be the parent that I am today, right? So I work a lot on healing, which is a lot of neuroscience, a lot of psychology, a lot of psychotherapy tools, in a word, trauma integration. So that's what we need to do, only for letter A. And then there's a lot of work to do in learning how to be present in the present moment. When my child triggers me, I want to yell. That's my immediate response. But if I am skilled at being present, I am able to regulate my own emotion, then my child is able to co-regulate. So then he or she is able to self-regulate. Children do not have the capacity for self-regulation alone. So that's letter B. And then letter C, of course, I bring and I talk and I teach my parents everything about the science of connection, what happens in the brain of the child in the moment of the tantrum, the moment of the fight between the brother and the sister, when they don't listen, they don't want to do homework. So there's a lot of tools. It's a whole bag, huge bag of tools that comes only with connection. And it's our responsibility to learn the tools, to be willing to use them, to test them, to experiment, to fail. We fail a million times and then we start all over again. And how to be self-compassionate with ourselves. I also talk about that in my program, because we are going to fail. We are going to mess up. We are going to still yell the next day. And then somehow I need to be able to have self-compassion. I need to be able to integrate that particular pain that trigger brought up for me in that moment. And then I need to be able to reconnect, because connection is a cycle. It's not a given, and it's not constant, right? It breaks, it disrupts, we need to recreate it. So that's my quick intro in conscious parenting. And let's take some questions or comments. It's okay if you want to take a moment of silence. Claudia, go ahead.
Hi, Mihaela. Nice to
Hi.
meet you. A pleasure to see everybody. I've done a lot of this reading and research as well, and obviously not as much, and still learning every step of the way, and trying to, of course, make the best choices we possibly can as parents. But realizing that there are times that we fail miserably, at least I do. And so no matter how much I've worked on myself, I still find that there are sort of patterns that are embedded in me, even though I'm aware of them, from my upbringing, from my parents, from the screaming or the yelling or the abusive aspects of the relationship when I was a child, that as much as I've worked on myself for 30 years, in that heat of the moment, I will find myself screaming or saying something and triggered, and sounding just like my mother. And I'm thinking, when did this happen? How did this happen? How did I do this when I swore to myself I would never repeat this? So it's interesting when you brought up that children don't have the capacity to self-regulate without us being able to self-regulate. And even when we've done all of this inner work, how can we stop these patterns from recurring? Even when there is an awareness, even when there is a certain amount of time or work, personal work that we've done. Are there any ideas or anything that you can share with us to help us in that process?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. This is the $1 million question. Every time I talk to a group and this question comes up, inevitably, this is the $1 million question. So Claudia, how old are your children?
I have a son who's 13, and he's just turned into full-fledged teenager.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So, okay, so this is the $1 million question, because the entire self-help industry, the entire personal development industry, the entire spiritual development space is rooted in finding the answer to this question. So I just want to put that in. So Claudia, okay, I'm going to tell you two things, only two things in this time together, that hopefully are going to plant the seed, and you can experiment with them the next time a trigger happens, right? So you said it right. There are patterns in our subconscious mind, which is 1,000,000 to 1 more powerful than our conscious mind, that we can work on. So I said few important things in this just one question. So if you are imagining an iceberg, our conscious mind is only the tip of the iceberg, very, very small. And the subconscious mind is the rest of the iceberg. The subconscious mind, the rest of the iceberg, I'm saying it again for everybody, that is 1,000,000 times more powerful than what we say to ourselves in our conscious mind. So when I say to myself, I want to stop yelling, or maybe you have a different reaction. Your pattern could be something else. What's your pattern when you get triggered by your boy? Let's say your most common pattern.
Either I yell and I get aggressive, or I want to walk away, and I want to just kind of ignore, not ignore, but there's a pattern of abandonment on my childhood that I've had to work through for years.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons I guess I became a coach. So
Yeah.
we heal our things, and then we want to be able to pass that on, right? So
Yeah.
it's either I take it personally and I feel hurt and therefore I shut down, or I get aggressive and I want to kind of shake the reaction into him. You know, I want him to understand.
Right.
And that comes with the yelling, unfortunately,
Yes.
which is
Okay.
what I was taught.
Right. So first off, our pattern for self-protection, because what you're doing in the moment, all of us, what we're doing in the moment, when we are triggered, you know, what is a trigger? A trigger is an activation of pain. And that's something that I teach in my program for the parents, not to take it on the child that they are triggered. Because if the pain were not to exist in their psyche, the child can do and say anything, we would remain in our adult calm mind, right? In our body, an adult body. But because the pain already exists, that particular word or action or not listening or whatever activates that pain. So the one thing that all of us need to take away is that even though I tell my conscious mind, I want to stop yelling, whatever my subconscious programming, whatever my subconscious self-defense mechanisms are, which for many women is number one is yelling. And I can talk about that at length. Why do we as women yell? Okay. But some moms, you know, they have yelling and then they combine it with emotional abandonment, which means I walk away, or we punish the child, go to your room, when you come down, come back, which is still emotional abandonment. But but they're all self-defense mechanisms. What we're doing in the moment, what our subconscious self-defense mechanisms gets activated to do is, I need to protect myself. Somebody is attacking me, hurting me, attacking me or hurting me. So the immediate response, because it's programmed so deeply in our subconscious mind, is I need to protect myself. So the two things that I want to give everyone as tools or tips are, number one, I need you to write down and have it everywhere in your house. My child is not the problem. No matter what they do to me, if I react, it means that the pain is already in me. So my number one emergency is that I work on that pain, right? Because once we work on the pain, then the child, the husband, the boss, the client, nobody can reactivate it. So number one is to admit to ourselves, to get out of the denial, the pain is already in me. That is 75% of the solution. Now, once we accept that and we take responsibility for the pain, the next step for us is, what is the pain, right? Mm-hmm. What is the pain about? Because it's not about the child not doing their homework, definitely not. Or the husband not doing the dishes. Okay, so then what is the pain about? And the question we need to ask ourselves when we are outside of the trigger, we're not in the episode anymore. So we write it down for self-reflection later. That becomes our number one emergency, is I want to identify what this pain is about. And how do we do that? There's lots of different mechanisms, tools, but ask yourself a simple question. And that question is, when did I first feel this way? Mm-hmm. And if you have the courage, the bravery, it takes a lot of bravery to answer this question, because we're women in our 40s, in our 30s, in our 50s. Nobody wants to go back to when we were 3 or 4 or 5 and somebody abused us in some way, usually daddy or mommy, okay? We don't want to look at that. But that's where the pain is. And I'm not saying that in the moment when the child says something or does something, we remember the actual memory. It's not about remembering the explicit memory. It's about the activation of the implicit memory, which is, that's how we felt. That's what our subconscious carries with it. And of course, as children, we needed to protect ourselves. So we either rebelled, we either, we fought back. So we have an automatic fight response, or we walked away. We made ourselves small and invisible. So, we have a freeze response, all kinds of stuff. So I want to recap. Step number one is accepting that it's never the child. It's never the child's fault, okay? That's why conscious parenting says it's a relationship-based process, and we're both mirrors of each other. So the child, every time they activate a pain, they are acting like a mirror. So now he put the mirror in front of us. Now I need to look in the mirror. So accepting that the child is never at fault. Number two, taking responsibility for the pain that already exists. Number three, keep a journal, keep a notebook on your kitchen counter available, and just do an experiment. 30 days, write down every single trigger that happens to you for 30 days. Right? Okay, my child triggered me when he did that. I felt this way and I reacted this way. So just do a chart with 3 columns, and you don't have to do anything about it for 30 days. Just record, keep track. And then at the end of the 30 days, you will see where your pattern is. You will see that most of your reactions have a pattern. They all stem from the same kind of pain. So now you identified the pain. So you know that your priority is to work on that pain. Okay, and then the third, I said 2, but I need to complete with step number 3. step number 3 is what I encourage parents in my program to do is in the moment of the trigger, I feel my blood is boiling. I am ready to yell, right? And rage. If in the moment I can pause, so I need to work with myself. Maybe every day when I wake up, I set the intention. Today, my intention is to pause. If we can pause just for 3 seconds, then we are able to reset our nervous system. And instead of identifying with the pain itself, which is the pain reacting, it's the pain yelling. So instead of identification, if I'm able to pause for just 3 seconds, then I am able to disidentify from my pain. In other words, I'm not one with my pain anymore. I am able to say, wow, my pain is reactivated and I am the observer of my pain. And then I am able to say to my child, I don't feel well right now. I love you. I need 5 minutes to myself. So that's going to nurture the connection in time. You're not able to reconnect in the moment, but you're not hurting the child anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's what disidentification from pain does, right? But it takes a lot of self-awareness, intention, and then a lot of practice, because in the beginning we will fail 9 times out of 10, but that one time when we're ready to pause, then that's going to give us enough confidence that I can do it. And that's the answer to the $1 million question. Our brain was wired to react in certain ways, but then through repetition of all of these things that I just said, are going to rewire our brain in a different way. Now, if I'm 40, my brain has wired itself for 40 years. So expecting me to rewire my brain in 6 months is very immature, right? And unrealistic. So I need to give myself time. I need to show compassion every time I fail. And more importantly, I cannot give up. Even if it takes me another 40 years, at least I'm rewiring for something better. So that's the attitude we need to have. And having a support system around us, of course. Okay, so Claudia, how did it land for you, especially because you're a coach?
How did what, sorry?
What's your feedback to me based on what I just said?
Oh, thank you, Mihaela. No, that's fantastic. I think it helps tremendously, of course. When we are able to pause, everything shifts.
Right.
And being able to pause more often than not is sort of where I'm at, which is good. But there's still going to be those moments when, you do lose it and you still find, and that's, I think, the frustrating part is that having some of this awareness and having some of this knowledge already and putting some of these things already into practice, you still are going to fall sometimes. I'm still going to fall sometimes, and I'm still going to be triggered sometimes and not be able to catch myself in that moment. So that part is frustrating, but I find it very helpful that we're talking about some of the reasons why these things are happening. And remembering that it's about your pain and not so much what the child is doing. That's huge. I think that's huge, because that brings all the consciousness again. And that allows us to see, okay, wait, I've worked on myself for X amount of years or whatever, but there's still something there. And obviously that's another aspect of myself that I get to work on, or that I get to look at, and finding the people who can help you see that. That's huge.
Yeah, agreed. So what I want to say, Claudia, and for everybody here is there is a way for us to buffer the moments in which we do fail, okay? So that's why letter C is so important. So everything I just talked about is basically letter A, right? And now letter C, connection, is so important because if we know, if we, the parents, if we have the tools and the knowledge to nurture connection on a daily basis, the relationship between us and our children has a huge emotional bank, right? Imagine a bank account with money. You know, if we need to keep putting money in the bank, so there is money in the bank when we need it, right? If we only take money out of our bank account, there is nothing left. The same way the connection works the exact same way. So yes, there are moments in which we, the parent, are going to lose it, fail, yell, punish, do things that are not good for the relationship, that are hurting our child, all of these things. But if every single day we nurture the connection that's between us and the level of trust that's between us, with a lot of the tools for connection that we need to know and use and practice, then when we fall, when we fail, when we falter, if the child has that bank already, you know, constantly at least halfway full, the child over time builds his or her own tools to either, you know, show empathy for us in the moment. The child may be the one who said, wow, I really see you're losing it. Let me just go and take care of my things, right? But for that to happen, there must be a lot of trust in the relationship and a lot of safety. Or the child may say, you know what, Mom? My son says that to me because we're so used with everything that I'm talking here about. You know, it's not just repair, because repair is important. After we lose it, we have to repair. But the relationship it's very complex. So it's not just repair. Is a lot of nurturing, feeding connection, you know, a lot of building trust and safety and closeness. So a lot of times when I quote unquote lose it, right? My son is able to say, oh, wow, I can see, I can't talk to you right now. You know, I'll come back in 5 minutes. Now, it's not the child's job to do that. I just want to put it out there. Do not place that responsibility on the child. But when the relationship is this two-way process and there is trust and safety, then when we fall, when we falter, when we mess up, by nature, there is a buffer. There is not the hurt and the pain that otherwise we cause to our child is not so big. But for that to happen, we need to constantly put money in that emotional bank account, right? We need to build connection in a proactive kind of way. And I just want to say, connection is not a given. Yeah. Children do not owe us anything. They do not owe us listening to us, respecting us. They don't owe us anything, right? We need to earn that. And they will naturally give all of these things to us because they are wired for attachment, right? They are wired to want to feel close to us, but they have to feel safe. You know, safety is everything, emotional safety. So that's why connection needs to be built up and nurtured in a proactive way, which means we need to do things to keep that emotional bank account full when things are good. We cannot be this, 911 type of parenting system that we only do things when things are bad. We need to constantly pour in and feed that connection, so there is that buffer, so that the child is resilient, right? In my last newsletter, I was saying that I am amazed by how many programs are on the market. How to raise a resilient child, how to raise an emotionally intelligent child. No, 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 no. Children are born resilient. They are born emotionally intelligent. We take that away from them. By the time they're 3 years old, we took it away from them. That's it. We killed it in them because we do not have self-awareness as a general rule, right? I say this. We cannot be present in the moment, and we don't know how to keep the connection bank account halfway full. It doesn't have to be always full or at the limit, but the glass has to be half full all the time. And for that, we need to do things and we need to take responsibility. Anyway, I'm stopping here. Paula, hello. She says yes. And then Maritza says, how can we stimulate or nurture connection with a teenager that all they want is independence? Right. So Maritza, where are you? Let me see. Oh, I see you. There you go, Maritza. So are you talking about your 15-year-old boy or the 13-year-old?
Well, it's more the 15 because the 13, he's more talkative, he's more expressive, he's more easy to talk with. The other is more than an introvert. He's an observer. I'm not very much talkative. So I know where he gets it from, but my connection with him, it's physical. I want to be with him. I want to feel me. I want him to feel my presence, my love. It's more physical. But in the moment that I need to speak with him, I always have to think hard what I'm gonna say. Can I engage him in my conversation? I have to think really hard because he's not so much a talkative person. Mm-hmm. And right now he's building new connections with his friends and everything, and I like that and love it. But I'm kind of feeling kind of like I'm getting away, and I think it's natural, but I don't want to feel that he's disconnecting from me. And when I talk to him, it's very short sentences, or yes or no, or very few words. The only moment I get to talk to him a lot, they are not as common as before, is when he's falling asleep. Then he starts like talking, and then, but now he's more a grown up, so he doesn't want to be with me when he's falling asleep. He wants to go all by himself to his room. Mm-hmm. How can I nurture that? Maybe it's non-spoken connection, but how can I make him feel secure and that he has me, even though that we are not chatty all the time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so great. Yes, teenagers are a whole category in themselves, right? We all know that, because both their body and their brains, they are going through huge transformation. And actually, in a way, the teenage years are a different, it's a replica. It's in a way a repetition of toddlerhood, but in a different way, because like you said, they're looking for the same things, right? They're looking for independence. They are detaching, right? It's a process of detaching from mom and dad. It's that bridge between, young children and going into adulthood, but there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of confusion that they're facing, and it's a lot of uncertainty in their minds because they don't know who they are, right? It's that legendary quest for identity. Who am I? Because I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad. They are renegating everything right now. So all of that, it's a very natural process, like you said, nothing to be scared, but they need parents. Teenagers need parents as much as a toddler needs parents. But we need to be there for them in a totally different way, because we cannot be an obstacle to their independence. We cannot be an obstacle to their quest for identity. Their peers and friends are becoming their adoptive family in a way, but they still need guidance. They still need this certainty that they have a safe place in the world. So with that said, I want to say two things. One is I recommend a book for you. It's called Brainstorm by Dr. Daniel Siegel. Brainstorm, because his idea is that the brain of a teenager is going through a rewiring process, okay? So it's a storm, it's a constant storm of chemical imbalances and things that are happening in the brain, okay? So read the book Brainstorm by Dr. Daniel Siegel. And then at a personal level, on a daily basis, what you as the mom can do, while you respect his way of being, right? You let him be the way he is, but the way you foster connection with him is by you being proactive and very respectful. So when I say proactive, you can say, what's his name?
Rodrigo. His name is Rodrigo.
So you can say to him, Rodrigo, I want to propose something to you, okay? I want to propose to you that every Saturday morning, you and I have one-on-one time together.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
And then please write down, use my words, please use my words, don't change my words. And then you say, I will do anything you want for an hour. Okay? So okay. This is very important. I will do anything you want, because that allows him the freedom to dictate how he wants to connect with you. And maybe he say, oh, really? I want to play video games. You want to play video games with me? Because maybe he wants to test you, right? And you say, yeah, sure, I'll do anything you want for an hour. And, or you can say every Tuesday evening or something. So you propose a day and time that you can commit, and you never break your promise to him, right? So this is a proactive way of nurturing the connection, right? And then, so
I love it.
So it's one-on-one time, but you need to go in with a super open mind. You're there to connect with him, but you do it his way. You're not dictating it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so that's one thing. And then there's more stuff, but that's all for this time. Okay, awesome question, Maritza.
Sorry?
Wendy says, I have to go. And then she says, I just want to say Mihaela's mission is wonderful, and I am so grateful for her in this world. Thank you, Wendy, so much. And then Fortuna, oh, that's private. Okay.
No, you can share the question. I think I made a mistake in the way I.
All right. So the question from Fortuna is, what is a limit, and when shame and lack of compassion to ourselves allows a child to demand? So Fortuna, give me a little bit of a context.
The context is a child that is too demanding and a mom that is working. So sometimes we, as moms, as parents, when we work so much, we feel shame because we would like to be more time with the kids. But I know that there is the balance and the ideals of, like what everybody should be doing, but it's really hard. And sometimes the time that you allocate, it's too little on your standards. Maybe it's a lot on another mom's standard, but on your standards, sometimes that time is too little. So personally, there was a time in my life that I felt that way. I was working a lot, and my daughter, which is amazing, was demanding a lot from me, and I was like, one more story, when, bedtime, and it can be 15 stories, like, and it doesn't matter if it's story number 3 or number 7 or number 15, she will cry and make a demand when I turn off the lights and when I, exit the room. That's like maybe a super small and silly example, but I mean, when is too much, when is too much, like, what is the limit that we need to say, what, we have the right to be healthy also, and the right to rest, and the right to feel as a person, not only as a parent, and to put a limit on our job as a parent, and to also probably feel compassionate about ourselves, because they can feel the shame, and if they feel the shame, they can manipulate you, and then your labor as a mom can be damaged, because then the education that you're bringing to them is not based on the love, it's based on the shame. So that tweaks the whole situation.
Yeah. Okay, so Fortuna, your question is very complex, okay? Your question has many questions to it, okay? But I'm going to give an answer that addresses the limits, because I believe that's the most important thing right now. When is it too much? I cannot give this answer to anybody, because every family is different, every mom is different, every child is different. But when you, as the mom, as the adult, when you feel that this is all that I can do, you know that that's the limit for yourself, right? So we need to listen to that. If that's all I can give, that's all I can give. So that's not the problem, in my opinion. That's not the problem. The problem is shame, and I can do a whole talk just on shame. That's way too big as a topic to address it here. But shame arises in our consciousness, and we feel it in our body for a reason. I don't want to shame my shame. I've learned over time to accept my shame and look at my shame every time I was feeling shame, to ask the shame as if it was an entity. What are you here to teach me? What are you here to communicate to me? What is it that I need to know and I don't know? So that's how we work with shame in a sentence. Now let me talk about the limit. Children need limits. I talk about this extensively in my book, and any child psychologist will say the way children feel safe in the world is by knowing that they have limits and there are rules and regulations. Otherwise, their brain would be very chaotic. So us having or needing to set a limit in a certain moment in time is not the problem. The problem is how we set the limit. First of all, we are confused as parents. Is this a good time to set a limit? Am I a good parent right now? Am I a bad parent? So the problem with the limits is that parents are not self-confident enough. And again, that's a whole topic. Okay. But let's say I know this is the time to set a limit. Let's say I'm very confident. I know my child needs a limit right now. Then the art of setting a limit is how I set that limit, right? And what follows the limit, I need to be okay with it. The reason most parents are afraid, we really feel afraid of setting limits with our kids. The reason for that is not the limit itself, is the fact that the child rebels against the limit. They cry, they yell, they throw a tantrum, they tell us, I wish I had another mom, you are the worst mother in the world, you know, I wish the neighbor was my mom. They say all kinds of horrible, painful things, and we don't know how to handle those things. That is where the core problem of limits is. So first is our own confusion and how we are not clear about when to set the limits, what is good to set, what not. So we come with confusion. Then we decide to set a limit and hell breaks loose. The child goes into all kinds of reactions and we don't want to handle the reactions, or we feel very uncomfortable because we don't know what to do when the child cries, when the child gets angry, when they say terrible things to us. So that's the true art of setting limits. And part of my program is I teach parents what to do when they set the limit, how to set the limit. First of all, we set the limit with first pronouns. We always say I. You know, we say to the child, you can't watch TV anymore. You can't do that. And they just did it. So just off the bat, we don't know how to set limits. So we need to take responsibility for setting the limit by saying, I cannot let you do this and this anymore. I cannot read another bed story. And they start crying or rebelling or being angry, then as a parent, is my job to be trained and to have the emotional intelligence, the emotional availability to listen. Now I need to listen, because that rebellion, that anger, that frustration, that crying that comes after we set the limit, it's already in their body. That's pain that needs to be released. It's the same thing with triggers with us. So actually they are looking for somebody to set a limit because they're looking for a pretext to release what they have to release, to cry, to show how hard life is for them. But because they're so young and their abstract thinking is not developed yet, of course they're going to target you and me. They're not going to say, my real pain comes from the fact that I have a bully in my class, or that my math teacher made fun of me when I didn't know the answer. They carry a lot of shame around a lot of things. So their psyche pushes that down and they will target you. But we need to have the awareness in the moment that that's what's happening. So they need the safe space, inner space for somebody to listen. You know, we know from psychology and spirituality that a child needs a witness to heal their pain. So we need a lot of training on ourselves in order to be capable of being that compassionate, loving witness to their pain in the moment, right? So that comes with a lot of tools and work and self-awareness, but that's what that child needs. They don't need a third bed story. No, they need a limit, but then the parent needs to know that crying is following, anger is following, frustration, bad language, bad words, attacking. But all of those things are nothing but pain. It's already in them. Now, we can talk another hour, but where is that pain coming from? Nobody's abusing my child. I take good care of my child. My child has everything she wants. I give her the sky and the moon. It doesn't matter, because if from the moment they are born, they do not have an adult who listens to them constantly, they have pain in their body. That's my answer.
Amazing.
This is amazing, and we have a lot of questions, but in order of the time, can we, what do you think? Can we have 5 minutes more of your time? I'm going to read the question, and if you can quickly answer or just, okay, so here we have, how can I encourage, this is Paula, how can I encourage my 9-year-old to speak without feeling nervous or insecure about what others think about her? I'm going to read all the question, and then we see if there's similars. Could you share with us a little about what you mentioned about why women scream, said Claudia Rocafort? Jimena Aguirre, I totally agree. You named the support system. What happens if you don't have to? And I love the idea to propose like a date with your child, but what happens if you do? And the answer is, I don't want anything. Also, Claudia, any advice on how to work with an oppositional child, especially when they break the limits or rule constantly with an excuse? I forgot. Amazing, amazing, love it, thank you. So here we are.
Okay. Okay, guys, ladies, you are amazing, all of you. You know, each of these questions deserves an hour, right? So let me see what I can do as a general thing. First of all, there is no such thing as children manipulating us. I just want to say that that's a myth, not true. There is no such a thing as oppositional child or defiant child. Everything that children do. Oh, and when they say, I forgot, right? And this is a pattern. We need to take responsibility that we, the parents, the environment, train them to become who they are today. They are not out of thin air, right? Their personalities, their self-defense mechanisms, they were all responses over time to the environment, which means you and me and their daddy and the school, their environment. So my answer to all questions are, let's all begin by accepting that our children are our products. Whatever we don't like in our children today, let's take responsibility that we conditioned them to become that. We conditioned them to have that particular self-defense mechanism, or we conditioned them to run away from responsibility. Whatever the case is, they were conditioned by us. Their brain wired itself in response to pain in their environment. So that's a big one. Now, let me see. I can take something that's general.
Yeah, what happened with the resistance to the
right? So both with the oppositional child, but this is quote unquote. This is a label that we put on children that is very damaging to their own self-esteem, to their own intelligence. It's very damaging that, oh, he's strong-willed, oh, whatever. Please do not put labels on children anymore. Okay, so let me just answer quickly with two things. One is, we need to learn as parents, as conscious parents, we need to learn to connect with our children in a way that's natural to them, not to us. So that means that we need to learn to connect through play. I didn't even touch the topic of play because we talked about other things. But one of the tools for connection that I teach parents in my letter C modules. So one of the tools for connection is connecting through play. Now, when I say play, I do not mean that we come from school, we give them food, and then we say, okay, let's grab a ball. We go outside and we throw ball, and that's our playing. It's playing, but that's not play to connect, okay? So I recommend to all of you a book by Dr. Larry Cohen. It's called Playful Parenting. And so that's one thing that I can answer to everyone as an answer is learn to connect with your child through a language that is natural to the child and to the age of your child. And play never fails because that's the natural language of play. Now, I want to say something so important about play. When we play with our children, we need to leave our ego at the door. We need to leave our authority at the door. We need to leave our mind that says that I know better because I am an adult at the door, right? We need to play as children. And more importantly, let your child take the lead. Let them show you their inner born leadership. But we as parents, when we play with them, what do? We say, no, that's not how you build the Lego. No, this is how you cut the paper. Who wants to play with a person like that, right? We have such a hard time following the child's lead. So if it's another thing you take away from today, apart from what I told Marita to schedule one-on-one time, this is the second thing. Learn to speak less, much less, 1%. That's it. That's all you need to talk. Listen 99% of the time. Be curious, be humble. You know, just say, oh, wow, tell me more. Don't tell them your life experience. You know, the child says, I see a frog jumping, and we give them a whole lesson about the environment. No. So only talk 1%, listen 99%, and follow their lead. Even when they do homework, follow their lead. You know, they may write messy and not so organized because we are all type A here. It's okay. Let them be their way. Let them have a little bit of a messy homework, but be their partner in building that self-confidence, right? So this goes back to the answer to all of these questions goes back to self-awareness. You know, what do I need to let go of when I interact with my child? My controlling nature, I need to work on it. My dominating nature, I need to work on it. You know, my perfectionistic nature, I need to work on it, because that's how we damage our children over time. And eventually when they get to be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, of course they don't want to listen to us. Of course they forget because they don't care. We train them into not caring because we're all over them, controlling, imposing our way. We need to let go of these things. And we need to become their partner in creating this emotionally safe environment. That's my close.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mihaela. It was a wonderful conversation. I think that you know, 20 minutes more and we are all still here and listen to you. So thank you for your...
You are amazing, all of you, with your questions, your stories. We did it together.
Yeah, thank you, Mihaela. So everybody, thank you for being here. Next month we are going to have a conversation about astrology. That's another way of understand our kids.
Yes.
But Mihaela, every time that I listen you, I learn a lot. So thank you very much for this opportunity and for always be so open and generous to share your knowledge. So thank you everybody to be here. And I'm going to ask you something, please.
Claudia wants to say something. Yes, ask.
Please. Thank you. I wanted to ask you briefly, Mihaela, how can we reach you? And you talked about the courses that you give, of course. So I'd like to have a little more information as to where you're giving them and how we can get information about them.
Right. So I'm going to type for everyone here my Instagram handle. So follow me on Instagram. That's Mihaela PL. And then my website is my first and last name together. Okay, so, or parentingmadeconscious.com. On my website, as soon as you get there, there is a pop-up that will show up and you can subscribe to my newsletter. I am sending out the newsletter every Saturday morning. Nice. And if you want to email me or get in touch with me, then please email me at parentingmadeconscious.com, at gmail.com. And then if you want to read testimonials about my program and what parents in my program are saying, if you go on my website under blog, you will see lots of articles, right? And then in each article, you'll see different screenshots that I take from my parents' testimonials in my program. And from there, you email me, you DM me. I'm very easy to reach. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Thank you for that question, Claudia.
Pleasure.
Maria, sorry, I interrupted you. Please take it away.
Thank you.
I'm here, sorry. I would love to give just one word to, like a gift to Mihaela. If there's one word that you have, you can write it or you can say out loud as a gift to Mihaela. One word that summarizes your experience today.
Thank you, Gabriela, for your feedback. I see it in the chat. Thank you.
For me, it's inspiration.
For me, it's love.
Love.
Gratitude.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, everyone.
Love, gratitude, wisdom.
Thank you, Fortuna.
For me, it was nurturing. It's fulfilling. It's enlightening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maritza. So good to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you too.
So we have from Gabriela Lemoyne, life-changing.
Thank you, Gabriela.
Okay, thank you very much all. Big hug, kiss, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Please connect with me on Instagram and I will follow you back so we can all stay in touch with each other. And I want to say before you close, Maria, that you are doing the hardest job in the world. We are doing the hardest job and the most important job. And we are in it together and we can support each other. That's why we're here together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Gabriela. That was great.
Thank you, ladies. What a joy and what a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claudia. Bye, Maria.
Bye-bye.